Hello everyone and welcome back to Ruby Lessons in Codecademy. So in the last lesson we finished with looking at control flow in Ruby, and today we're just going to have a review of what we have learned so far. So let's do that. So what we have learned with control flow is how to use if, else and else if, which are basically the most important thing of control flow. Then we actually went on to see how to use comparators or relational operators like equal to, not equal to, less than or equal to, greater than, and greater than or equal to. And after that we went on to look at logical operators or booleans, which are and, or, and not. So if you missed any of those videos, I would highly recommend that you watch them, because you will always run into some of these in programming. You will always need to use them. If you don't use them, you're probably not writing a very good program, just saying. Okay, so take a second to reflect on what you've learned so far. Okay, we have. When you're ready, hit 7 submit code to start the review exercises. So, yeah, as I said, if you haven't watched the videos, I would highly recommend you do. But you can still continue watching this video because you will learn some things anyway. If, else, and else if. So let's remind ourselves of this. Alright, you're all on your lonesome. Okay, so this is a bit of code that you're going to give us as an example. And our instructions are create an if-else statement in the editor. So we can put those down straight away. Else. And make sure to include at least one else if, okay? Else if. There we go. Each branch of the statement should print something to the console. So we want to do if something, else if something, else something. So because we have something, we want to leave a line after it. And also we learned about convention, and we learned that it's good to leave one tab after each else if. So if you have an else if on this line, on the next line you should leave a tab and then type your code here. Or at least I said a tab, they said 2 spaces, but it really depends on your preference. So we want to do if, I don't know, let's use variables like they have used here. So let's use A and B, because that seems like a good example. A equals 10, B equals 11. And we will want to print something to the console. I will actually use puts here because puts is usually much nicer looking. There we go. So if A is greater than B, do this. If A is less than, A is less than B. Also note that the variables are case sensitive, so if I put this in, I would get an error. Just a reminder of that. Else, well, else we don't actually put a condition in there because it's else. Anything else gets caught in else, as it speaks for itself. A is more than B. B is more than A, and both variables are equal. There we go. A equals B. And I am actually going to use a double equal to, even though it doesn't matter what you use here, seeing as it's a string. 7 submit code, and once I do 7 submit code, I should actually run into B is more than A. Oh, okay, let's see what our... Oh, I know what it is. I forgot to put end there. Good. So now we get B is more than A, which is correct. 11 is more than 10. So let's move on. Unless. So we also learned about unless, which is kind of like if, but the opposite of if. It's the same as if not, and then the condition. So let's look at this. So problem equals false, print good to go unless problem. So let's see how this works. Remember, this is basically a shorthand if statement. It will do whatever you ask unless the condition is true. In our example, problem is false, so we don't have a problem. We print good to go because no problem, there are 0 problems, we are good to go. So create an unless statement in the editor. The statement should print something to the console. Let's actually copy and paste this, just to see what happens. Okay, go to. You can't just use that, but I am going to be a bit more unique and do hungry although this isn't that unique, and set it to false and do puts. Actually, I'm going to use puts because I think it looks much nicer. As I said before, puts, I am not hungry unless hungry. Good, so because hungry is false, this is fine. If I changed hungry to true, however, I should get nothing printed out, hopefully. Let's see. Good, I get nothing printed out. That is what I was expecting. Because I am hungry, and I shouldn't be saying I am not hungry, unless I want to lie, but computers don't lie if you program them not to. So, let's move on. Unless they are AI, which is quite cool. Dare to compare. I think that AIs can lie, I'm not sure. I'll have to Google that later on. Now let's review comparators or relational operators. We've turned the tables a bit. Remember, comparators need to compare two values to each other to result in true or false. So you have the relational operators, we were talking about equal to, not equal to, greater than, and so on. Instructions. We're letting you know what value, true or false, we want each variable to have, and your job is to add an expression that evaluates to the correct value using comparators. So we have, 6 comparators to choose from and only 3 statements. Okay, that's quite easy to do. Excuse me. 1 equals 2. That's going to be false for sure. This one should also be false. Plus that times that is less than 234. And I'm sure that it is because multiplication and addition are good here. Although this operation might actually give me an error. Hopefully it doesn't, if it goes out of the bounds of integer. And this should be true. True, we can do 1 less than or equal to that number. And that is going to be true. Good. So hopefully this makes sense. If it doesn't, please watch the other videos, and if it still doesn't make sense, do feel free to put a comment down below and ask me a question. I will answer it as soon as possible. Billions of booleans. I swear they used that title before somewhere, didn't they? Oh well. So now we're going to be looking at the logical operators, so and, or, and not. With and, so this is this symbol for and, both comparisons on the left and right must evaluate to true for the entire statement to return true. If the left side does not return true, it will not bother trying the right side, basically. Or the other way around, depending on how it's being executed. If it has brackets, for example, or parentheses. So with or, either the right or left or both sides must evaluate to true. If the left side evaluates to true, the right side will not be tried because it has met the condition of the side being true. So one side is enough. If you have two, still good enough. Unless you're using exclusive or, then it's going to work like this. With exclusive or, only when you have true and true or false or true is it going to execute to evaluate to true. If you have true or true, it's going to be false still, and the same goes with false. But because we have non-exclusive or in Ruby, it evaluates to true unless both sides are false. And not, which is symbolized by an exclamation mark. By the way, these are pipes. On my keyboard, I type them out by using left shift and the button that's right next to left shift. On some other keyboards, I think that they're somewhere on the right side of the keyboard, I'm not sure. They do look either exactly the same as these, or two vertical lines on top of each other. Or just Google it, also you should be fine with that. So okay, coming back to not, not does the opposite. So if you're false, you're now true, and if you're true, you're not now false. So not true is false, not false is true. There's nothing in between. There's no gray area in computing, or at least not in this case. Just think of it as opposite day. So instructions. The code in the editor indicates what value, true or false, we want each variable to have, and your job is to add an expression that evaluates the correct value using Boolean operators, and, or not. So we can make them really complicated, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to make them that complicated. true equals, oops, no, not equals, true, and, where is my and? I cannot find my and, there we go. True and true is going to return true. I'm actually going to put it in brackets and put or false. So because this is going to evaluate to true, it's not going to check the right hand side, so this statement is all going to be true, because we have an or there. Then we can do not false, and for the false we can do, I don't know, true equals false. I'm going to put that in parentheses, and then I'm going to put or false. So true does not equal false, so that's going to be false. On the right hand side it's also going to be false, so this is going to evaluate to false. And here not false is true, and here, as I discussed before, the whole thing is going to evaluate to true. Good, we have finished that part. So now we have finished with control flow in Ruby. This is quite a big part, so if you didn't understand a big chunk of this, either rewatch the videos or ask me in the comments down below. I don't mind, I will answer them as soon as possible. We will be using a lot of control flow in the rest of the course. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share, subscribe, it helps me out, it really does. Also, yeah, if you have any questions, comments, do feel free to post them in the comments section down below. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.